Hello everyone. Today our group are going to present a presentation about the author to her book by Anne Bradstreet. Our group is Group D is consists of Nina Ayu Saputri, Salsabilla Noor Azura, and Shevariska Wahyuningtyas Maharani. Okay, let's start to the next slide. Anne Bradstreet, one of the greatest poets from the 17th century, was born in 1612 in England. She's an English poet that lived in North America and is also considered as the first writer in colonies that were published. She comes from a wealthy family. She's the daughter of Thomas Dudley. She wrote many kinds of literature to spend some time in the middle of her business as a wife. Next slide. This is the poem from Anne Bradstreet. I will read it for you. Thou ill-formed offspring of my feeble brain, who after birth didst by my side remain, till snatched from thence by friends, less wise than true, who thee abroad exposed to public view, made thee in rags, halting to the Bradstreet truck, where errors were not lessons, all may judge. At thy return my blushing was not small, my rambling bred in brain should mother call. I cast thee by as one unfit for light. Thy visage was so irksome in my sight. Yet being mine own, at length affection would thy blemish amend. If so I could, I wash thy hand, thy face, but more defect I saw, in rubbing off a spot still made of flaw. I stretch thy joints to make thee even fit. Yet still thou runs more helpling than is meet. In better dress to trim thee was my mind, but not save homespun cloth I the house I find. In this array most vulgar mayst thou roam, in critic hands beware thou dost not come, and take thy way where yet thou art not known. If for thy father ask, say thou hadst none. And for thy mother, she alas is poor, which caused her thus to send thee out of door. The author of her book is a autobiographical poem. It means that the author writes about their personal life, and it might be focusing on special things that happen in their life, starting from birth until death. In this poem, she will tell the readers about how she felt about the fact that she had no power over her literary work. The meaning behind the poem. The poem talks about a woman who is an author. She has written her book, but she felt that the book created from her offspring brain. She doesn't want to publish her book. Her friends, was actually her brother-in-law, did it, published it without her knowledge. She imagined books which will always be lost no matter what happens. The subject in this poem is a woman, refers to the author. The, the title of this poem tells us that what we are reading is what the author said to her book, or rather, is what the author feels toward her book. Central idea of the poem. There are three central ideas that convey by the poem. The first one is writing and literature. From the title, we can guess that the use of word here, author and book, show that this poem has concern about writing, and the author said that writing is also difficult by claiming her work, which is that's why she wrote ill-formed and her brain feeble. The second is Feminism and Motherhood. The line that stands out as feminist is, if for thy father ask, say thou had none. She tried to convey that it served as a declaration of Bradstreet poetic independence from men. She also treats it like her child that she admires and loves. She tries to clothe it, wash its face, and protect it. Anything she will do for her child, which is her poem, her literature work. The third is commerce and art. At the end of the line, she said that she had to sell her poem because she was poor and her art was rich and had a certain quality. She claimed that she Alice is poor. It means that it consequently gave her motivation to out of door or selling her poem. And also before that, the words exposed to public view also show that her poem has been sold even though she didn't give permission about it. The analysis of the poem. Okay, I will read it. Who after birth didst by my side remain, till snatched from thence by friends less wise than true, who thee abroad exposed to public view. This line means that her poem consists of an idea that she wants to keep it for herself only, and she doesn't want to share it with anyone until that happened, until someone took it from her and published it for the public to read. The book was spread everywhere with its flaws, and she wants to throw it away, but she can't. She feels that the book was like her child, her own child. She wanted to cover the flaws, but her effort was useless, and she can't change anything and is forced to throw it away. Next. Was rumbling bread in print should mother call? I cast thee by as one unfit for light. Thy visage was so irksome in my sight, yet being mine own, at length affection would thy blemish amend, if so I could. I washed thy face, but mortific I saw, and rubbing off a spot still made of flaw. This is her reaction. This line described about her reaction about the fact that her poem were published without her consent. They should tell her first before publishing it, before publish it, and she's not ready to embrace it. At first, she was embarrassed because it was public without her consent, but at the end, it's still her poem, so she decided to revise it, and she's still using the metaphor here that she refers her offspring as her child, that she was its face. It means that she cleaned her child from any spot, she revised it and correct it. You should know that children in Puritan society that and Bradstreet live are very important. Puritan were very strictly disciplined, will strictly discipline their children to obey and not exert their own will, and those children were prohibited from freely playing and were put to task. That's why the writer emphasizes it many times in her poetry. Next, which caused her thus to send thee out of door. She said that the poem is an orphan. There's no father, there's only a poor mother. It means that this poem was made with no man involved in its process, and there is only mother, refers to the speaker who is poor in terms of ability and knowledge in writing poems. Next, this will be continued by my friend Shefa. Shefa, the time is yours.
Alright, thank you, Azura. Okay, the literary device about this poem is This poem consists of 24 lines and written using the couplets rhyme scheme AABBCC. The matter in this poem is iambic pentameter. Iambic pentameter describes the construction of a line in poetry with 5 sets of stressed and unstressed syllables. For example, in the first line, so ill formed of spring of my feeble brain. The tone of this poem is an irony. Then the poet also gives the mood of the emotional feeling of sadness, confusion, and mixed feeling. Figurative speech of this poem is the first. The extent of metaphor in this poem is that she compares her book or poem to having a child. It is referred to the first sentence of her poem. She said that it was her offspring of my feeble brain. The personification appears when she treats her poem like it is a real child. It was born, she washed his face, it wears rags as clothes. Sometimes she feels embraced because of it. Then the poet also include pun in her poem. Pun is a joke that makes fun of words. In this poem, she makes fun of herself. She calls her brain as feeble brain. She also defines her offspring, the poem, as a rambling brat in print. She feels embarrassed because of her poem. She feels it is not worthy. The assonance is used throughout this poem. For the example is in the line 6, Meteoraks holding to the breast to truth, where errors were not lessened, all may judge. Here, similar e-sound impose themselves on the poem, representing just how many supposed error exists in the book. And then the alliteration in this poem is on the first and second line. Both are ended with the same sound, brain, remind. And on the third and fourth line, also ended with the same sound, true and few. On the fifth line and the sixth line, urge and judge. On the seventh and eighth line, small and call. On the ninth and 10th line, light and sight. On the 11th and 12th line, wood and cool. On the 13th and 14th line, sow and flow. On the 15th and 16th line, feed and meat. On the 7th and 18th line, mine and find. On the 19th and 20th, roam and calm. On the 21st and 22nd, known and known. And on the last is on the 23rd and 24th line, poor and door. The next slide will be explained by Nina.
Thank you, Seva. I will explain about imagery in this poem. Another literary device is imagery, the both using visual imagery and textile imagery in this poem. Visual imagery describes a about how something appear and what it look like. Visual imagery appear on the fifth lines. That is messy in breaks, helping to see press to trudge. In these lines give a visual description about someone who looks wearing tattered old clothes and walking with difficulty. And on the 10 lines, Sai visage was so irksome in my psyche. The visual used by the poet to describe the face of something that looks so annoying in front of her. The next is the textile imagery. Textile imagery is the imagery that giving the sense of touching. The example is used on the 13 lines. I was tie-faced, but more defects I saw. Those lines are using textile imagery where the poet wants to give the sense of touch from washing someone's face. I will explain the author purpose. The author purpose in this poem is to express the love, pride, remorse she feels towards her new book and is displayed elegancy through the metaphor of a mother and child. As a writer, she might have remorse about her art that was just printed and published without her permission and used for their own advantage, though she cannot do anything with her book. And Bradstreet want to give motivation that male can also publish their book even though at the first time they might have anxiety that they will get discrimination as a woman author. The phenomenon in real life. This phenomenon and situation that is described by the poem still happens today when females try to phantom the generative instrument of men by producing literacy, anxiety of the outer cause, among the others by socioeconomic operations, female social rules, and intellectual inferiorizations. And there are also many cases of copyright of other artists without any permissions from the original author. They make copy and after that they publish to get their own benefits for themselves. As human beings, we have found many cases that relates to this poem. There are many cases of copyright, not only for books but also for music, films, and many others cases. Unfortunately, this case still happens with the reason that the real author will not be disappointed, but the real author who has the copyright will be disappointed, like what Anne Bradstreet said in this poem. Thus, we must reduce this activity to respect the author with what they want to do with their creations. And nowadays, there are still cases that occurred in the past that is discriminations for female writer, which made the female writer feel insecure about what they have wrote. As humans, maybe we might regret it because we know that everyone has the same skill and no matter what gender that they have. Moral value from this poem. From the outer message or value, we can learn that we must be confident in our creation of whatever it is. We do not have to worry about what others people say, especially if we are a woman. We have to get rid of the anxiety. Then we learn to not make prints or publish the creations of others people, even if they are our relative for our benefit. We should not give limitations for people who want to make creation. This is the end of our presentations. Thank you.